You ever wonder how we got here? Looking out at the ocean, maybe taking a long hike or taking a run or on a long, lonely road for whatever reason, or maybe just looking at a stressed out cat. You get to thinking about history, and it always kind of sort of defaults to this. Everybody thinks about kings and things like that. And it's always one man at the top, and then you had everybody else, and then slaves underneath it. But when did we switch? Hey, where did all the kings go? It's rare nowadays to come across a nation that is ran by a king. Usually you have an elected official or something like that. So let's talk about that. What happened back then? And what we're going to look at today is Rome, specifically about 27 BC. Okay. Here we have a map of all the places. Now, I am centered in California, which is right about here. But today we're not going to be talking about California. Uh, because California doesn't exist in this point in time. Bye. No, where we're going to be looking at is Rome, which is over in Europe, somewhere in this area. Okay, let's get a little bit closer. Okay, here we are. Now, here are some of the places, specifically Europe. Now, this isn't quite a modern map, okay, but more or less some of the countries that we know and love are there. Okay, but let's take it back a little bit further. Ah, there we go. And dead center in the middle of the screen, you have Rome. Okay. Now, we're not going to go over Rome's foundations. That's a story for another time. What we are going to go over is this man, Augustus, the Emperor of Rome, crowned in 27 BC. He ruled until 14 AD. Now, this guy brought something to the table that made Rome incredibly powerful and incredibly dominant. And from there, they began to spread their influence. What did he bring to the table? Well, the professional military. Very official looking, no? You see, back in the day, when two kings would get, we'll say, PO'd at each other, they would decide that they're going to fight. Okay? Usually, people would be minding their own business and they would get called to arms. Sometimes they would let the kings know how they felt about that, but then they would go and then have a friendly competition. Maybe without the guns. Okay, and this would go on until one side would surrender or was completely overtaken by the other side. Okay, but Augustus had this idea: the army, a professional, dedicated army. Okay, and what started happening is whenever people would run into conflicts with Rome, they would show up to fight, and they would be greeted by a professional military. This was met with some complaints, to which the Romans responded. Okay. Now, these conflicts would go over just as well as any other professional versus another amateur, as you would imagine. So, as a result, they would spread their influence, slowly beginning at Rome and then all over what is now Italy, uh, so past Italy's borders, way past Italy's borders. Okay, because they were able to spread their influence so consistently, they lasted so long, which allowed them to cultivate a culture and a system of government, okay, known as democracy. But that's going to be something for another time. Okay, this has been What Happened Back Then. We'll go into Rome a little bit more here in the future. Okay, till then, I'll see you guys.